I'm not a finance director, and I'm not a Philadelphia lawyer, but I can tell there's a whole lot of in between as far as these school districts in South Carolina, and we know we're at the bottom. We don't have to ask anybody.
That's because in Dillon, the property is almost too poor to tax. The tobacco and cotton economy is dying on the vine. So that 19th century schoolhouse that opened just 30 years after the Civil War is today the school through which every child in the district must pass. We talked to Ray Rogers in the abandoned auditorium.
When you're on the school bus and you look across those seats and you see the faces of those children, who do you see? Who are these kids?
You see poor kids with a lot of hope that when they're younger, you see all the bright eyes, and as they get older, more reality sets in. The older kids, a lot of them, you see the despair. Y'all doing all right?
The reality is of Rogers' 6 schools, all are crowded. Some have crumbling walls,
rotting right here out from under you,
and saturated ceilings.
And when it rains outside, it rains inside too.
Well, this is that proverbial dike I was telling you about, that you never know what the next day's going to bring.
There's Thursday and there's Friday.
Every day brings difficult choices among reading, writing, arithmetic, and repairs. Rogers upgrades the old schoolhouse from time to time, usually after a crisis like the day the ceiling fell in. He's run new wiring here so they can plug in computers now. But he had to sacrifice the auditorium, too expensive to fix. And he's cutting back on teaching. The music and art budgets are down 30%. There'd be almost no money at all for sports if it wasn't for ticket sales. Football tickets cover 80% of his entire sports budget.
Okay, what does the temperature change have to do with the extinction?
In middle school, there are no science labs or foreign language classes. Teachers' salaries are among the lowest in the state.
It looks like it's about to fall down before you even step inside it.
Alicia Richardson is an 8th grader in the old schoolhouse.
And there's mold growing out on the sides and on the walls and everything, and insects, roaches, ants, rats.
Not to mention the biggest pest of all, freight trains that shake the old school and its students twice every hour. Here's where you see just how close Alicia Richardson is to a better opportunity. If she hopped this train, it would take only minutes to cross the divide. 40 miles southeast and 100 years ahead is this school in Horry County, built in 2003.
How many schools have you built in the last few years?
We've built 19 new schools in the past 7 or 8 years.
19 in 7 or 8 years?
Right.
Jarita Postlethwaite is superintendent of Horry County Schools. Her new classes have the latest: science labs with wireless internet, foreign language in middle school, and an orchestra program. Don't be mistaken, we're not talking about rich kids here. Just like in Dillon, about 80% of these kids are on a free or reduced price lunch program. But they're in one of the best schools money can buy because of this: the beach. Horry County includes Myrtle Beach, golf courses, and all the property taxes that come with them. That tax base also supported $500 million in school construction bonds over the last 10 years.
We have property wealth here, and the taxpayers choose to raise their property taxes to support children.
Down by the beach, a house could sell for $1 million.
Easily. A lot could sell for $1 million.
This year marks the 51st anniversary of the end of racial segregation in the schools. But many school administrators will tell you there's still discrimination, based now on the color of money.
The kids over in Dillon are going to school in a building that was built in 1896 because of an accident of birth. If they'd been born a few miles over in this direction, they'd be in this school.
Right.
What does that tell you?
It tells me that there are unacceptable inequities in terms of the opportunities and access that we provide to America's children.
Is this segregation?
I don't know.
It's not equal.
It isn't equal. I think of segregation as something that people intentionally impose on other people. And I don't think that that the situation that we have is intentional. I think to some extent it's always been part of our society. But we've now reached an age of sophistication and complexity where it's no longer acceptable if we're to survive.
How big is the gap between these two school districts? Well, when you add up local, state, and federal money, Horry County takes in nearly $1,800 more per student every year than Dillon does. If that seems like a wide gap, consider this. Plenty of other states are worse off than South Carolina. A research group called the Education Trust looked at funding gaps between rich and poor districts state by state. It found that the 10 worst are New York, Illinois, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Vermont, Louisiana, Arizona, Alabama, and Michigan. The problem touches nearly every state. In 45 states, including South Carolina, there have been lawsuits for better funding of schools.
I want you to capitalize those two first letters.
There is, of course, a lot of debate about whether throwing money at schools actually improves learning. In Horry County, Jarita Postlewaite says she can prove that it does.
Without money, it is hopeless. But with money and hope and a plan, it's possible.
Her students' SAT scores have been rising 8 years running.
Tell me what you tell the Rotary Club about the SAT scores.
I tell them that if Horry County were a state, our achievement scores would be higher than several states in the country.
Which states?
Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas, California, and some others.
But in the next county, Dillon's SAT scores are well below the national average, and it may not surprise you to hear that of Ray Rogers' nearly 4,000 students, almost half never graduate from high school.
When you're losing 50% of your students to non-graduation, something is wrong.
Of the half that do graduate, how many of those go to college?
Maybe 20%. So if we're doing math, that's what happens to the other 80. And those are the kind of situations that have gone on for too long.
It's the kind of situation the Lane family finds itself in. Charlotte Lane is depending on school to make up for the trouble they've had. Once the Lanes had a home and 2 cars, but Bill Lane had a stroke and they lost it all. Charlotte took a job at a factory and rode a bicycle to work the overnight shift. She's counting on school to put her kids on a different road.
If you don't have the money to go places, I have this philosophy, if you have the books, you could go anywhere you want to. So if we want to go to Disney World, we just get a book and we could go there.
What does school mean for these children?
To me, I feel school is, I think, a great haven for them to go and not have to worry about our bills, where the food's coming from, where the rent is, how daddy is. They should be enjoying themselves. They're having too much at their age right now that they shouldn't have.
Shantae is 8 years old. She's in 3rd grade and still eager for more.
What do you like in school?
Science and reading.
Shantae, what do you want to be?
Well, I want to be a dolphin trainer. So I can see a dolphin, a real life dolphin.
I hope they will get the chances I didn't have. I want them to go to college and to be what they want to be the photographer, the artist, or the scientist.
Or the dolphin trainer.
Yeah, whatever they want to be, they can be it. And you don't want to lose, their enthusiasm and energy at such a young age.
But like most kids in Dillon, Charlotte's 15-year-old son Tommy did lose his enthusiasm. He got into trouble starting a couple of small fires and was suspended from school. His graduation prospects are uncertain. Just like Ray Rogers told us, after a while, reality sets in. Rogers started his job with a lot of enthusiasm 14 years ago. Back then, he had plans drawn up for new buildings. But Dillon hasn't built a new school in 35 years, and Rogers fears now the divide is too wide to bridge.
We're probably talking $50, $60 million in the county to bring us up to where we need to be right now.
And you don't have that?
No. No.
I have the sense that this is personally painful for you. It's not just an administrative problem for you.
You know, we deal with the most important things in people's lives, and that's their kids. And when you, meaning me, the state, the legislature, or whatever, when we sell these kids short, we can't be proud of ourselves. We can't be proud of our community. We can't be proud of our state. We can't be proud of our nation.